Hello there, and welcome back. Bfdi, a long-running animation series on YouTube following objects competing for prizes, ranging from the ability to not be stuck in Hell TM for all eternity to the epitome of all that is good in the world, Pinzoos on Pig Yum. There are a very large number of characters in BFDI, and I like quite a few of them. Because I have nothing better to do, ignore Sun Station Part 1 please, I thought it'd be fun to rank all of them. Specifically, I'll be ranking every character that competes in the show, excluding Profiley because he's in it for less than an episode. This comes up to 77 characters that have competed throughout BFDI, BFDIA, BFB, Teapot, and BFDIE. I won't waste any more time, but this is going to be a stupidly long video either way. Let's begin. F tier. These two characters are the only characters in the show I can firmly say I hate, and for very different reasons. Obviously, everybody is entitled to their opinions, it just happens that my opinions are superior to yours. Yes, you specifically. 77. Pillow. I like pre-split Pillow. They didn't do much, and that was fine. Teapot Pillow, on the other hand, does way too much. She takes away the spotlight from more interesting, funny, and well-written characters, in my opinion. Even for the characters that I hate far more than Pillow, at least they don't overstay their welcome and hog screen time and lines like Pillow does. Botmy, Book, and Nickel all did practically nothing from Teapot 1 to 10, and they were well-established characters. Imagine being a character like Cake, Naily, or Price Tag trying to do anything when the only character on your team the writers care about is Pillow. To summarize, Pillow gets last place because she forces other characters to the sidelines to be forgotten, which is especially bad with characters like Naily and Cake that desperately need more to do. 76. Yellowface. Pillow has a bit of nuance for why I placed her in F tier, but there is no nuance with Yellowface. He's just the most miserable and insufferable piece of garbage on the planet. He's almost never funny, and is almost entirely annoying. The only reason his poorly drawn ugly-ass self places above Pillow is because he knows when to shut the hell up. I just wish he would shut up sooner. I think the only time Yellowface has sparked any joy in me is when he was melting to death in BFDIA 9. I have an overwhelming hatred towards Yellowface, and no pleas from his supporters will ever sway me. D tier. Now that we're out of the two characters I despise, we move on to the characters that I just generally dislike. These guys don't remove anything from the show, but I still smile every time they get eliminated. Also, before we move on, yes, I was loudly cheering during the Teapot 17 kick at stake. 75. Sticker. Hey look, the first BFDIE character already. I don't like Sticker very much. He's just kind of annoying in a way I can't place easily. I was not upset that he made it into the finale, but I sure am glad he didn't win. Generally, not a character I like. 74. Lollipop. Lollipop is mostly here because she survived the BFB 15 elimination over Dora, which was some bullshit by the way. I don't find her entertaining, more so a moody drag that manages to remove joy and whimsy from nearly every scene she's in. Even when the writers try to make Lollipop funny or entertaining, her annoying personality gets in the way every single time. 73. David. The most gimmick character to have ever gimmick charactered. He does nothing, says literally four unique words throughout the whole series, and helps his team a total of one time during an episode that they lost. Right now, with Yellowface and David both low, it might seem like I hate joke characters, but I don't. Dora won't appear for a long time. It just happens that Dora hits a good balance of doing things and not being the most insufferable character of all time. 72. Ruler. Wow, another BFDIE character already. Ruler has some funny moments, but they're few and far between the rest of Ruler content, which is mostly made up of him being a prick. Mean characters are fine, and I like quite a few, but mean characters should have some comedic value instead of not having any comedic value at all. 71. Bracelety. And the most annoying voice award goes to yours truly, Bracelety. And yeah, basing your entire personality around fangirling another contestant is kinda crazy. I think Bracelety could have been made into a better character if she'd not been eliminated so early, but as it stands, Bracelety is a nothing burger with extra stank. 70. Match. I was never really that fond of Free Smart, and some of the characters individually are fine, but altogether I'm not a fan. I much preferred Woe Bunch and No Name. Match is a key example of this, mainly serving the role of just being a worse pencil. She's bossy like Pencil, a leader like Pencil, and does most of the things Pencil does just without any of the character development or charm. 69. Rocky. It's possible to make joke characters that are funny, and it's possible to make characters that don't speak still have personality. Rocky fails at both of these things. His jokes are quite literally the same thing every time outside of the first few episodes of BFDI, and his personality being that cute thing that vomits. Again, I promise, there are joke characters that I like. They just need to actually do something and not be Yellowface. 68. Bottle. Bottle's generally a good contestant, I just don't vibe with them. It's hard to come up with criticism for Bottle, similar to Sticker, other than maybe her surviving too long in Teapot, but that's far from her fault. I just generally don't like her very much. Maybe due to her inconsistent personality, maybe due to making stupid decisions. Again, I don't really know why I'm not a fan of Bottle. C tier. These are the characters that I mostly have neutral opinions on, and you will find out very quickly a lot of the characters near the bottom of C tier are here specifically because of how boring they are. 67. Saw. Saw is the first in a long streak of characters that are really boring, and due to their boring nature, we'll mostly be speeding through these characters. Saw's 8 gag is not very funny, but she generally doesn't do anything wrong. 66. Naily. Naily does nothing but make nail puns, and the moment she was on a team with no obvious elimination picks like Bracelety and Fiery Jr., she got eliminated, which makes a lot of sense. 65. Foldy. Foldy's been getting progressively more characterization, but is still boring with nothing that stands out. She places above the last two due to not having any flaws like the 8 gag and nail puns. 64. Eggy. The last character in our streak of boring characters. She doesn't do much, doesn't say much, and doesn't add much to the show. She does actually have a personality, unlike the last three, it just happens that her personality is never ever used for anything. 63. Rose. Oh my gosh, an interesting character. Rose from BFDIE is a solid contestant, she just doesn't stick out much. Sidewalkie does the mean character better, and as much as I hate him, Sticker does the cheater better. She's actually interesting, but nothing about her actually stands out. 62. Fiery Jr. If I had to describe Fiery Jr. in one word, it would be petty. He constantly complains and argues over the tiniest things, which can sometimes be entertaining and other times lame. He does have some pretty good moments, saving him from D tier. 61. Cake. And we're right back to boring characters. Cake is somewhat charming and did actually get some really good character development in Teapot 22, but before that, name one interesting thing Cake did. I dare you. 60. Balloony. Balloony got screwed by being sent to BFB post split. Like, genuinely, what was he supposed to do against straight fan favorites? Balloony is fairly boring on his own, which is how I'm ranking the characters, but he's actually pretty solid with Cloudy. 59. TV. TV is pretty uninteresting. Robot Flower does the plot line of robots not being recognized better, so what does TV have? Not much. He doesn't have any real flaws and has better characterization than many others, but is simply outshined by Robot Flower, who, spoiler, I don't even care for that much. 58. 8 Ball. 8 Ball is not a very boring character. I'd actually say he's pretty interesting. I just don't find the interesting things that he does entertaining. Throughout his time in BFB, he had a pretty good plot line. He got eliminated right as it ended, and unfortunately hasn't had the opportunity to do anything more. He's a fine enough contestant, just far from my favorite. 57. Fiery. Oh boy, time for a big one. Unlike most of the other contestants in C tier, who are always mediocre, Fiery is instead extremely polarizing in both directions. He's either a funny and likable contestant, or a lazy asshole. What kind of friend ignores the other because it would be easier? I think the main reason Fiery suffers, sometimes writing wise, is that he clearly wasn't meant to win Season 1. Jack and Jellyfy obviously wanted Bubble to be the one Leafy stole Dream Island from. I think that ignoring Leafy, Fiery's a pretty good contestant that would rank high B tier. When Leafy is brought into the equation, though, he's not very good. 56. Robati. Going from one of the contestants with the most to say about them to one with the least. Robati sure does exist. He has some fine moments. That's it. 55. Cloudy. Cloudy is Balloony's better half, Paws. He has more comedy, is a better team anchor during his time on Beep, and is generally better than Balloony in most ways. He's still quite boring with not much going on, but he has a few slight positives. 54. Basketball. Has anyone ever noticed how all three sports balls are the smartest characters that don't excel physically? Anyways, basketball is easily the worst of the sports balls, and it's not even close. She's not the worst ball, as 8 Ball is worse than them, but yeah. Her plot with Robot Flower is pretty good, but outside of that, she's just a less funny version of Golf Ball. 53. Robot Flower. Robot Flower is TV, but slightly better. I would say her getting a mini plotline with basketball wrapped up and then being eliminated works well. She did what she had to for the show. Outside of the plotline, I'm not a huge fan, however. 52. Hot Dog. Time for the fourth BFDIE contestant. Well, fifth if you count David. Hot Dog could have been a really funny contestant and done some great things if he hadn't been eliminated so early. I desperately need some of the BFDIE characters to return and do more in the future. Well, besides money, but that's obvious. 51. Loser. Liar, you didn't lose this ranking. Loser is fine. I don't like him in Post Split much, but that can be said about almost everyone in Post Split. Outside of Post Split, he's pretty cool and has some decent backstory, but I like the other side of Loser's backstory quite a bit more. 50. Taco. Wow, from one character ruined by Post Split to another. The Taco book arc in pre Split goes on for way too long, but when it isn't overstaying its welcome, I like it. Taco in Post Split sucks. A good section of competing and a bad section of competing leads Taco to a pretty neutral position. 49. Flower. Time for another big one. I really wonder what on earth could have happened between BFDIA 25 and BFB 1 for her complete personality shift, but I'm honestly here for it. BFDI and BFDIA Flower sucked, and BFB Flower was a major improvement. I still think the writers handheld her to winning BFB, but by the time the writers were setting up Flower winning, all of my faves in BFB were eliminated, so I don't mind it that much. 48. Money. The final BFDIE contestant to wind up in C tier is Money. Both pre-rejoin and post-rejoin Money are good individually, but I don't think they work super well together. It's like if Bubble suddenly adopted the personality of Snowball. I'm fine with Bubble, and I absolutely adore Snowball, but they don't work well together. 47. Woody. Woody was one of the best BFB post-split characters simply because of how much an improvement it was. BFDI Woody would be extremely low, but post-split Woody managed to salvage the character and turn it into something kind of interesting, which is impressive. 46. Eraser. The lowest member of the spoiler, the next member of the board won't appear for at least 30 ranks. I just don't like Eraser as much as the other two. His beef with Teardrop feels pointless, and he gets a lot less development than the other two. 45. Pie. Pie is in a very similar boat to Hot Dog, where if she had not been eliminated so early, she could have been hilarious. Instead, Pie doesn't get to do much, mostly just appearing occasionally, like in Teapot 9 and Teapot 22. 44. Bubble. Bubble is quite a bit stronger than Match, but again, I am not and never really was a fan of Free Smart. Bubble easily should have won BFDI. There's not too much denying that. The writers were obviously setting up Leafy stealing Dream Island from Bubble, not Fiery. Either way, Bubble's fine. I have no complaints about her, but I don't really have any compliments either. 43. Nickel. Nickel's funny in BFDIA and then immediately sinks to a way worse personality in BFB and Teapot. Why did they not keep his BFDIA personality? It was good. I will also say, if anybody comments about Nickel, I'm going to give away 5 Nickel plushies. 42. Puffball. The final character in C tier. Puffball is alright, her friendship with Fries is cool, but I mostly like that because of Fries and less because of Puffball. She's far from a bad contestant, in fact, she almost made it into B tier, but I held her back just a bit. Overall, a pretty decent contestant, but nothing special. At long last, we've made it to B tier. These are the characters that I like, plain and simple. Also, for those of you wondering where Belle was in C tier with the other boring characters, you're going to be really upset. 41. Toothpaste. Immediately starting with a BFDIE character, just like in D tier. Toothpaste is pretty funny, and while her semi repetitive jokes can drag, she got eliminated at the right time where it didn't cost her anything. 40. Sidewalkie. Back to back BFDIE characters. Sidewalkie is a great example of a mean character, and while it's not my favorite type of character, Sidewalkie does it well. I also think his complete inability to hit anybody with snowballs is amazing. 39. Lie. Lie is a very unique character and has a lot going on, to the point where I'm not entirely sure what she's supposed to be. The large number of things she does at once kind of work together and create a pretty decent character. 38. Leafy. Leafy is one of the singular most important characters in the entire series, indirectly being the reason that BFDIA, many people's favorite season, exists. Leafy is selfish and does nice things, always expecting a reward for it, which is super unique and interesting. Leafy's the type of character you love seeing on screen, but never cheer for. Overall, well written and complex, but not one of my favorites. 37. Gady. Plot device looking ah. Gady is pretty clearly a tool for the plot and Teapot, but they work. Outside of the plot, they have a pretty decent but not memorable personality, and their quote unquote friendship with two is pretty cool. Before Teapot 20, one was a great villain, and Gady getting deleted is the number one example of this. Get it? Get it? Get it? 36. Clock. Clock would have been in C tier if not for Winter. Like, there is a reason he was the one who was forgotten about for a year. However, in Teapot with Winter, Clock got some great character development and some really good scenes, culminating in Teapot 10. Overall, pretty good. 35. Barf Bag. The final person who no longer exists. During Teapot, she's pretty boring, but in BFB, she was great, being a team anchor along with Donut. Overall, a pretty solid contestant that's fun to watch when she isn't shoved to the sidelines. 34. Grassy. Grassy has honestly grown a lot on me recently. Before the most recent Teapot episodes, he would likely place around TV, but now he's quite good. Teapot 19 and Teapot 21 are definitely where he shines the most, and his friendship with Snowball is quite good. 33. Stapy. Stapy is generally a good character. I don't have much to say about him, partly because he got eliminated pretty early in BFB, and partly because he's just a simple but effective character. 32. Ice Cube. Ice Cube has got some less than perfect moments, but has plenty of good ones too. Ice Cube's long grudges aren't my favorite, but Ice Cube is actually pretty great when interacting with Free Smart, which I've already made abundantly clear isn't my favorite. 31. Book. We've got three Free Smarters in a row, Book being the second one. While I would have preferred Needle winning BFDIA, Book is a fitting winner and definitely deserved it. Book in BFDIA is fantastic, and after she's allowed to have screen time by no longer being on a team with Pillow and Teapot, she's pretty good there as well. Book would be an A tier if not for BFB. BFB Book is awful, but one awful season for a character that has competed in three still isn't bad, so Book gets up pretty high. 30. Pencil. The third three smarter in a row, it's Pencil. Pencil is undeniably one of the most important, complex, and well written characters in all of BFDI. If this list were ranking objectively instead of subjectively, Pencil would have easily been in the top 10. Unfortunately, I'm a very subjective person, so Pencil only gets to the top 30. 29. Price tag. Now we have the first of the two Teapot debuters, and it won't be long until we see the other one. Price tag was pretty good on Team 2, and I really wish I could say any character on Just Not was good. I don't know if they deserve to make it as far as they have in Teapot, but they're a pretty good character who excels at being a likable outcast, quickly making new friends. 28. Jammy. It's been a while since we've seen a BFDIE character, so let's get another one. Jammy's not the most interesting character, and probably could have been way different if not for Ruler reforming slavery. I don't know what J&J would have done with Jammy if she had been on her own during BFDIE, but with the way that the season went, she's pretty good. 27. Winner. I told you it wouldn't be long. Winner's pretty good. Their backstory with Loser and interactions with Clock are obvious highlights, and while I do feel like Winner slowly gets a little worse after Teapot 10, they're a really solid contestant. Obviously, them reuniting with Loser and Teapot is great. 26. Coiny. If there was a contestant that was single-handedly carried by one season, it would be Fanny, but Coiny's a close second. BFDIA Coiny is one of the best characters, and while I do feel like he gets dragged down a bit by some of his other seasons, Coiny's never been a bad contestant, and is overall quite good. His friendship with Pin is one of the best in the show, and is generally written much better than Fiery and Leafy's friendship. 25. Gelatin. I know he got second place in BFB, but I honestly like him in BFDIA more. Gelatin is a silly dude with some silly moves and a strangely large supply of forks. Gelatin is one of the best characters comedically, often providing lots of funny moments when you least expect it. 24. Lightning. Lightning is not a standout contestant on his own, but in teams he's great. Both on Iants and on Death Pact again, Lightning has some great moments, and funnily enough, he's at his best when he gets eliminated with his crash out. Lightning doesn't do much on his own, but when put in the right teams, he can do some cool stuff. Did you know Lightning was a he? 23. Pin. It always shocks me how Pin makes wild and extreme changes in her character throughout every part of BFDIA. She starts as a pretty nice contestant, and then becomes a menace to society in later BFDIA. All in all, she's well written, funny, and a great character, especially for certain episodes in BFDIA. 22. Ruby. The second to last Free Smart member. I just generally find Ruby really funny, similar to Gelatin. She's one of the better members of Free Smart, and it's quite a joy to watch, even if she has a couple less than stellar episodes. 21. Tree. This is the lowest ranking member of the Death Pact Quartet, by the way. Also the lowest placed in the Teapot Limb order. Lamau! Tree is one of Death Pact's team anchors, and while he never has that much going on, that kind of works. I would describe Tree with one word: honest. 20. Bommy. Bommy is the only member of Just Not that managed to get any interesting moments in early Teapot. Outside of that one. Bommy is a great character. Him, along with the character right above him, almost made it into A tier, but fell just short due to a small issue. For Bommy, that's him getting out semi-early in Teapot. 19. Fanny. For this one, it's being surrounded by Marker and Black Hole. Fanny's a great character, and Teapot 7 through 10 highlights this. But when Death Pact yet again forms, Fanny gets kind of shoved to the sidelines and isn't allowed to do much. And that's it for B tier, as we now move on to A tier. These are my personal favorite characters, the ones that always make me smile whenever they're on screen. Yes, even this next one. 18. Belle. So hot take, I think Belle's really underrated, and I refuse to elaborate. For this ranking, you have to go off of vibes for why I like her so much. 17. Remote. Jumping from one character eliminated early to the next. Just in this case, it's a lot more egregious. Remote is one of the best BFB characters, and it's such a shame she got out so early in Teapot. Having a text to speech voice is pretty commonly used now, but Remote is a bit of a pioneer and uses it well. Of every robotic mind in Teapot, Remote is definitely my favorite. 16. Black Hole. The second to last member of the Death Pact Quartet is Black Hole. Black Hole is one of the most popular characters in the show, and for good reason. While I do feel he's a little overrated, there's no denying that he's fun, likable, and his plotline with Fanny is really good. 15. Tennis Ball. Tennis Ball is pretty cool. He has some good comedic moments, his dynamic with Golf Ball is really good, and he's generally a cool dude. Not much else to say. I do want to make this part slightly longer, so I'll just mention his progression in BFDIA from nice to mean in the final 6, and then back to nice during the final 3 is amazing. 14. Teardrop. The one and only contestant to compete in every season, including post-split BFB, or at least they were until BFDIE. Teardrop is one of the better post-split characters, and them being on a solo team for Teapot is pretty unique. While not being able to talk puts a hurdle in their personality, J&J still did a great job giving them personality without using any words, which is pretty impressive. 13. Beach Ball. Wow, it's been a while since the last BFDIE character. Beach Ball, for how short of a time he's in the game, is really funny. I do wish he could have been in the game for a bit longer, but along with Rose and David, he is one of the few BFDIE contestants to compete outside of BFDIE, that being in BFDI Mini Resort. 12. Fries. Quite possibly the singular most funny character in the entire series. A moment with Fries on screen is never a dull one, and while his get digging joke isn't super funny in the moment, seeing it brought up again and again many years later is hilarious, especially with Eggy in Teapot 22. Overall, while he may just fall short of my top 10, Fries is likely the most funny character in the entire show. 11. Spongy. Even including BFB 14, I never disliked Spongy. He's a very funny character, both as the butt of the joke in early BFDI and BFDIA, and the creator of the joke in late BFDIA and BFB. While he is sometimes a bit inconsistent, he has a pretty good overall personality and is generally fun to watch. 10. Needy. The second to last BFDIE contestant. Needy is pretty good, has some good development, and is overall nice. Needy going from a Fries-like character who barely participates in challenges to actually caring is a great watch, even if they don't get much time to actually care about the contest. This also marks the beginning of the top 10. 9. Golf Ball. The Bozo Brain Bossy Bog gets all the way to ninth place and is the highest of the sports balls. Not the highest ball, though. Anyways, Golf Ball's very unique, being a good but not liked team leader and soon to be world leader. While I can understand why Tennis Ball is more popular overall, Golf Ball is my personal fave of the two. 8. Donut. Donut's a very interesting case, as despite being so high in the rankings, there isn't much about him I specifically like. He just manages to have lots of good little things that bring him up high. I will say he's amazing in Teapot, easily his best season. Being the only one to fight back against one before she's revealed as evil is really cool. Well, besides Leafy, but that happens at a later time for what we see show wise. At long last, we've made it to S tier. These 7 contestants are my favorite in the whole show, and are just generally a joy to watch. Ranging from a season winner to a contestant that has literally never survived Cake at Stake, these are my favorite contestants from BFDI. Number 7. Fern. What's funny is that BFDIE does not have Cake at Stake, so Fern has never survived a Cake at Stake. Fern is the winner of BFDIE, and against Sidewalkie and Sticker in the final 3, oh boy am I glad he was the one to win. Fern is, simply put, an anti-Leafy. He's actually nice, isn't selfish, and, although unintentionally, only lets one person stay on Nightmare Island. Number 6. Dora. Dora is who I was actually talking about when I said never survived a Cake at Stake, which is a shame. Dora is proof that joke characters can be done right. She's both funny and actually interesting. While she is a bit disconnected from the plot, Dora is a very unique and interesting character, and I hope to see more of them in the future. Number 5. Snowball. Does Snowball count as one of the guys? I don't know. What I do know is that Snowball is the highest ranked ball. Snowball is great in every season he's in, from small roles in BFDI and BFDIA to a very large role in Teapot. His friendship with Grassy is great, and seeing him develop from an asshole to a genuinely caring person is amazing. Overall, one of the better written characters. Number 4. Blocky. Blocky is absolutely one of the guys, meaning that at least 30 ranks from Eraser was a low estimate. Blocky is the funniest member of the guys, and while he's not the most important, he is my favorite character in BFB post split. I don't know how much that's saying, but it's true. Number 3. Pen. Pen Island, all spaces, no caps. Probably the best developed member of the guys. All of his new friends constantly getting eliminated is funny, but before they get eliminated, the people in those friendships are great with Pen. Specifically with Lai, Pen gets amazing character progression and becomes one of the most interesting people in the show, being the only person to try and help Pencil while she is down. While there is another person still competing in Teapot I like more than Pen, Pen is my personal pick to win. Number 2. Needle. Runner up ain't bad, but oh boy was Teapot 13 rigged. Needle is, to be completely honest, not very good in BFDI. But in BFDIA, wow, she is amazing. She's the only contestant to have been on all 3 of the major teams, even being on 2 at once for an episode. She doesn't do a whole lot through the middle part of the season, but she does a lot of amazing things near the end, and having her make it all the way to the finale was so satisfying, even if there was no chance she would beat Book. Number 1. My singular favorite character in all of BFDI. First on Free Food, then on Death Pact, where he became one of the members of the iconic quartet that lasted all the way until Teapot 21 when Tree was eliminated. He's silly, he's the only Death Pact member that remembers what the CT and Pact is, and he's even a gamer, just like me for real. My favorite character in all of BFDI is Purpleface. I mean Marker. Yeah, Marker's a bit of an oddball pick, but I can't help it. He's just too awesome. Going from a background character in BFB to one of the cornerstones of Death Pact and Teapot is so great. He has a lot of good jokes, his friendships with the other Pact members is fun to watch, and he never has bad episodes. Well, maybe Teapot 19, but that wasn't his fault. So, that's it. Let me know who your favorite and least favorite characters are down below. I am working on other projects, including the next part of Sun Station, but it may take a while entirely due to my own laziness. For now, thank you for watching until the end, and goodbye.